This is the story of oil, the most valuable resource on Earth. Oil is the magic liquid that keeps the world turning. It has changed the world completely in such a short period of time. It is responsible for creating almost all everyday items, from gasoline to plastic to clothes, and even keeping our lights on. When did we discover it, and how is it made? How has this weird liquid become the most valuable resource on Earth? You're watching Before It Was History, and we're about to find out how. You see, oil was used primitively thousands of years ago as torches. But how did these ancient people get their hands on this oil? You see, oil is naturally made by the earth deep below us. These ancient people would have found it if they were lucky enough to stumble upon an oil spring. This is where it oozes from the ground, naturally, the same way a river does. But how does this oil get created in the first place? All living things are made of carbon, so when plants or living creatures die, they are absorbed into the soil, and after millions of years when exposed to heat and pressure, this organic matter transforms into oil. These ancient people would dip wooden branches into it to create a torch, or they would collect it so they could bind things together like a primitive glue. But oil never truly became popular until hundreds of years later. Oil is hard to find and takes complex drills to mine it from the earth, which was only possible once the Industrial Revolution had taken place. The other main reason was that people didn't yet know that oil could be transformed into great things. The main fuel source until oil was popularized was coal. Coal was easy to mine and abundant. It was great for heating people's homes. But this is where oil would take off. When it was discovered that if it was refined into kerosene, it would be great for use in oil lamps. The invention of the oil lamp was one of the greatest inventions of all time, taking mankind out of the dark properly for the first time in history and replacing lamps for good. This was the first step in the oil boom, as now everyone wanted an oil lamp. This surge in demand for oil led to a race for oil as people then began to mine oil from the earth. But the first oil well wasn't built until 1859 in Pennsylvania, USA. This discovery in mining technology showed all that there was an effective way of mining oil, and before you know it, oil wells began popping up all over the USA to meet the demand of all the kerosene lamps that were now lighting up cities across the US. But soon, in 1879, Thomas Edison would invent the light bulb, and it would destroy the need for oil lamps. The oil companies now had a product, but nobody to sell it to. But this too would change as the USA was now in the peak of its industrial revolution, and the great big machines that were manufacturing goods were about to receive a new source of power, further replacing coal. The next great surge for oil's popularity came in 1908 when Henry Ford created the first ever car that the working man could afford. Ford sold 15 million Model T, and that requires a whole lot of oil. So now, millions of Americans would need gasoline for their new cars. Thousands of gas stations had built to accommodate this new demand. A major discovery happened in the same year. European businessmen working for the BP oil company were searching for oil in the Middle East. And boy, did they find it. The first major discovery was in Iran. In 1908, this would set the Middle East on a path of incredible oil discoveries across many countries and decades. These countries over the last 100 years have built up vast oil industries from drilling to refining, all the way to shipping. But there was still plenty of growth left for oil in its journey to its modern state. The next boom in oil came due to World War II. This created a huge boom for oil, so that armies could run their millions of new war machines on oil, not to mention the factories all across the world churning out goods for the war, all produced off of the back of oil. But when the war was over, millions of men returned home. Most hadn't noticed the innovation in industry in that time, due to the war being the main focus of the time. But oil was greatly utilized in World War II in the form of plastic, and after World War II, this trend continued. Plastic became hugely popular, redefining the way we live. Now, year after year, plastic has become more diversely used. And today, over 460 million tons of plastic is made every year. And that is the short story of how oil went from nothing to the most valuable resource on Earth, from that meager well in Pennsylvania to now producing 30 billion barrels of oil a year. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.